Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a non-spoiler book review for Geekerella. This book is very outside the norm for what I usually pick up. Usually I read fantasy and young adult contemporaries. I just don't reach for them very often, but it is February at the time that I'm filming this and have read it. It just felt fitting for having a cute lovey-dovey holiday because the setup for the story is we follow two different perspectives. One is a girl whose father and mother have died and she's now living with her stepmom, who is awful, and she has two stepsisters. They kind of suck too. And then we're following another character who is a rising star. He has tons of fans. He's an actor and he gets cast in a movie that is the reboot of this really kind of nerdy sci-fi show that our female character is a huge fan of. When I first picked up this book, I'm going to be really honest in saying I was thinking I was going to hate it because I found the characters rather insufferable when I was first introduced to them. The girl, her name is Elle, she is a gatekeeper kind of to the extreme. So if you're unfamiliar with that term, it's when somebody is really passionate about a particular thing. They're a part of a fandom and they just feel like there are certain people that don't belong in their fandom. If you're not a big enough fan, then you're not really a fan. It's kind of that sort of thing. And when our male character gets cast, all she sees is this handsome, good-looking guy who was in this kind of like a soap opera type show, and she just doesn't take him seriously. She's so upset, and she has this blog that she runs that's dedicated to this fandom, and she ends up just kind of trashing the guy on it. And then he sees this, but he doesn't know who she is. He just sees this and now he's like down about himself, but also while you kind of, I feel like initially like him a little more maybe than the girl, he is still kind of annoying also. He's like a little full of himself, but it's because he knows he's really good looking. He knows what people value about him. And what makes his life kind of sad is that his mom's not really around and his dad is his manager. His dad is kind of just using him. His father just basically wants his son to date certain people for publicity. He wants him to do certain things for publicity and have a certain image. And so he doesn't really get to be himself, but it turns out he's actually a huge fan of this particular sci-fi show also, and so it irks him so much to see that this blogger is talking about how he's not really a fan, how she can't believe they cast him. So when we first meet these characters, while you can see right away that they have some pretty sad situations, you're also like, you guys are kind of annoying. I've always said though that I can get on board with characters who initially are frustrating or annoying if throughout the story they are changing and maturing. And I definitely think that was the case with this story. You feel for them. I think for a lot of people that had any sort of difficult upbringing and they had a difficult home situation, I think you can find something to relate to in both of these characters, even if you don't necessarily relate to them right now. But just because somebody is going through something difficult doesn't mean that they can't be kind of frustrating and obnoxious, which I think they were initially. And I think it makes sense too because they're very young and they have limited experience in the world. They don't have tons of confidence necessarily in who they are and what they want and how to be clear about that. And they also don't have a lot of say because they're young. They're kind of being controlled by their parents. And so they don't really have the opportunity a lot of the times to get to develop correctly because they have terrible parental figures. How these two end up interacting in the story is very sneaky and one of those like, oh, what are the chances? It's very serendipitous. But basically the guy, the male perspective, his name is Darian, he is trying to get out of going to this one con, like Comic-Con essentially, and he has his personal reasons for why he doesn't want to go. He tries to get in contact with somebody who's involved with the con to see if he can get out of it. And it just so happens that Elle, her father who has passed away, is actually the person that started this con. And so when he reaches out to someone and is just texting them, he isn't really being clear that he is who he is. And she isn't really being clear with who she is. She just kind of tells him, oh, sorry, I can't help you out. But she makes some kind of little joke about this particular sci-fi show, and then he kind of responds to that, and then they start talking, and they end up finding something in one another in these interactions via texting that just kind of gets them through the difficulties of their life, but they have no idea that they are who they are. And so he has no idea that she's this blogger that's blasting him all the time, and she has no idea that he's this pretty boy actor that she thinks that she hates. The story is definitely very cheesy. It's very over the top at times, and I just think though that that is what the author was trying to do. I think that's exactly the story she was trying to tell. The whole reason I picked this up is I wanted something cute and fun and fluffy, and I think that's what she was going for. On top of that, the writing style itself, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's very, very, very straightforward. And I think that the main goal that she had was to just embrace the sense of community that people can find in fandoms and show that through these characters, which I think she did. I know I'm using the words cute and fluffy and whatnot, and I don't mean those in a derogatory way where this book has absolutely no substance. I think there are a lot of elements of feeling helpless, feeling like you have no control of your life. I think a lot of the things that many of us have felt when we were growing up, and that a lot of people still feel as they're growing up, I think there are a lot of elements of the story that people are going to be able to relate to that have to do with that. So I'm not saying that there's absolutely nothing to it. It's just that I also think that the cuteness factor is there, and that's totally fine, and I think it's a good thing. And I ultimately was finding myself when I was reading it, I was like, this is like just so cutesy. It's just so cutesy, and that's okay. You know, it's very different, brings a smile to your face, and you're just like, that was just, I don't know, it's so cheesy. But sometimes you need a little bit of the cheese. If you're looking for a sweet romance, kind of innocent, kind of fun, playful, I think you're gonna get that with this story. It's not something that I pick up very often, but when I'm in the mood for something like this, it fits the bill, and I think it did exactly what the author set out to do with it. Let me know your thoughts on this book. If you've read it, if you're wanting to read it, let me know. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.